Hey, I'm Eric. I'm listening to 100 albums in 100 days. For all the details on what I'm doing and why, check out the video pinned to my profile. It is day 2 of Live Aid week, and today we're talking about Judas Priest. Judas Priest was one of only 2 heavy metal bands that played Live Aid. It was them, and it was Black Sabbath. What's funny is they're both British bands, and they both played in Philadelphia and didn't play at Wembley Stadium for whatever reason. And the funny thing is, Judas Priest wasn't even in the mix to be on the bill. But when they asked for the Who to play, the Who was the Who's manager was the same manager that Priest had. And so when they asked for the Who, their manager said, "And you're taking Judas Priest too." That's the only way Judas Priest got on the bill, was just because of the Who's manager, their manager. But what's always floored me is that those were the 2 picks for metal bands, quote unquote metal bands. Those were the 2 picks to play that day. If you think, we're going to chase a rabbit before we get to the album. If you think about 1985, and who all could have been on that bill, either here or in the States or in Wembley. You got bands like Van Halen, you got Quiet Riot, you've got Motley Crue, Night Ranger, Rat. I mean, all these bands are, up and coming bands that were big names at the time that could have played on the bill, and instead it's Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. And I'm not saying those are bad choices. I've never understood the selection process for the bands that played on either bill. But it is what it is. So they were one of the acts that I wanted to record when I recorded, or that I wanted to watch when I recorded a full day of Live Aid coverage. And I watched them deep into the night as well. British Steel is the album I listened to today. It's from 1980, and this is really where let me back up. I consider this a classic album, especially in the heavy metal genre. This is a classic metal album, and this is really where, when I started listening to Judas Priest, this is how far back I went in their catalog. This is where my fandom starts, is these songs on this album. It's got one song that probably a lot of people know, which is "Breaking the Law," and you probably, if you watch Beavis and Butthead, you know that song. But it also has "Living After Midnight," which was in heavy rotation on MTV when MTV first started. It's got a couple other songs. If you're a metal fan, if you're a Priest fan, you're going to know it. It's got "Grinder," it's got "Steeler" on it. But the album as a whole is just pure 80s metal. And when I was reading about the album today, I was surprised by how many thrash metal bands from the mid 80s considered this album as one of their influences. This is not really thrash metal. It is pretty heavy. I will give you that. It is pretty heavy, and that they're starting. This is really where they're starting to hit their stride as one of the big metal acts of the '80s. So it's worth a listen, if you ask me. If you're not a metal fan, you're not going to like it. But if you've never heard it and you like '80s metal, it's worth a listen. So if you're a Priest fan and this is whether this is your favorite album or not, let me know what you think about it. If you're not a Priest fan, if you're a metal fan, if you're just somebody that wants to try something new, give this album a listen and let me know what you think.